Hello everyone. My name is Nick McCarthy. I'm part of the Forest Extension Network, FOREXT. I'd like to welcome you all here today again for one of our FOREXT Fridays, which we hold every 2 months on a topic that we feel is, I suppose, relevant to us as forest extension people and as foresters and forest owners and whoever is here online today. So just a couple of words about the Forest Extension Network. It's a European network of forest extension organizations, which includes universities, research organizations, and then extension and also government agencies. I think some are also involved. And really what we our overall aim is kind of supporting member organizations through international collaboration in building new capacity and develop their support and advice skills, tools and services to private owners, and to kind of bring those to a new level by sharing our best practice across Europe. So today we're actually going to look at non-wood forest products with a focus on birch sap. And I would like to welcome Justas Mingaila, and excuse me for the pronunciation, but from the Lithuanian Agricultural Advisory Service. He's currently working at the LAAS as a specialist of innovation support. He's also a forestry scientist who has worked on the topic of non-wood forest products, especially birch sap. So he also owns a small seasonal sap business, which I'm sure he'll tell us about, annually providing raw sap to a processing company. So without further ado, I will let Justas take the floor, and it's over to you. And hopefully after his talk, we will have loads of questions for Justas. So I would just ask again that everybody makes sure that they're on mute and that their cameras are off. Over to you, Justas.
Thank you for a thorough introduction. Let me share my screen now and let's start the presentation. So there's no need to introduce everything once again, and let's start with some plain knowledge of non-timber forest products. So non-timber forest products are of products of biological origin, and other than timber, and that are naturally produced in forests and can be harvested for human consumption without cutting down trees. In non-timber forest products are separated from forest services, such as tourism. So they're normally objects and not activities. And then Lithuanian Ministry of Environment ordered a review on the value of these products last autumn. And a significant share of the information for the document preparation was taken from the European Forest Institute. The highest economic importance of these products was measured in France, Germany, and Turkey, and the lowest value in Ireland, Netherlands, and Estonia. And the highest economic value per hectare of forest are found in Switzerland, Denmark, and Germany, while the lowest in Sweden, Finland, and Ukraine. And the total economic value in Europe was measured to 23.3 billion euros per year, which is equivalent to 20.5 hectare of forest land, 20.5 euros per hectare of forest land. But then excluding the Russian part of Europe, which has a lot of forest, of course, non-timber forest products have a value of 19.5 billion, and the value per hectare rises to 77.8 euros per hectare. And main non-timber forest products in Europe are berries, mushrooms, nuts, truffles, herbs, and other. And these numbers are calculated by the value when selling them, by the financial value. And in Lithuania, there are no truffles, but we have birch sap. So non-timber forest products, the use of them, it meets the criteria of sustainability. So because they're healthy natural products and exploiting the resources, it embraces traditions, because the use of non-timber forest products is not a new type of activity, and then also it provides income and food for people, mostly in rural areas. The use of non-timber forest products can increase the value from the forest land, because from unpublished data from my own experience, the value, for example, from birch sap, if harvested for 5 years straight from the forest, from the from the birch stand, it can exceed the value of wood itself, and then you still have the wood left. And also, one of the economical factors is income. But then, as for environment, there is no need to change natural ecosystems. So if you need to get an agricultural product, you need to cut down the forest and plow. And then for non-timber wood products, you just collect them without making a significant harm to the ecosystem, which ensures a low emission level, and it can extend the life of forest stands, because if you have a private forest, and in Lithuania the cutting age of birch tree is around 60 years. So you can choose whether to cut the trees or to keep them for sap for decades more. And then, of course, there are negative factors as well, such as negative opinion of harming the trees or disturbing the nature by the human presence. Also, it can decrease the value of wood, which I'll talk about later in the presentation. And also, there are minor disturbances of forest floor or nesting birds while collecting the sap. And what is birch sap? Of course, most of you, of course, know what it is, but well, it is a colorless liquid when fresh, and when it starts to ferment, it becomes cloudy, and it's traditionally drank in spring by the people of northern hemisphere, where the birch trees are growing. And the main source of birch sap is birch trees. So it's a silver birch and downy birch. And the season of birch sap is around March and April. In the north, it can extend to later periods. So birch sap contains approximately 1.1% of dry soluble material. 1.067 is of which is sugars, and the sugar content is similar of one of fresh natural honey, which is glucose and fructose. Also, sap contains ascorbic acid, phenolic compounds, organic acids, macro and micro elements, the most abundant of which is potassium. And then there was no nitrates found in birch sap. But then the most valuable material I didn't mention on the list is 98.9% of pure water, which is filtered through meters and meters of of birch wood. And since hydration is healthy, I guess you can call birch sap also a very healthy drink. Then first thing you need to find out if you want to harvest birch sap is where to do that activity. So the most important factors are distance from the road, for comfortable transportation, then pollution. Of course, you don't want the trees to grow in polluted areas. The moisture is very important because if the soil is too moist in spring, it can get impossible to be in and to work. And also the parameters and conditions of trees. The trees should be healthy. The healthier the tree, the less harm it gets from drilling. The better it heals and the more sap it provides. And the yield of birch sap from an average tree, which is about 30 centimeters in diameter, is about 100 to 150 liters per season. Then choosing the method, there's a list of criteria, which, well, all are equally important. Well, the important depends on priorities. So of course, you must do as little harm for the tree as possible to preserve the wood and to extend the life of the tree so that you could use it for as long as possible. And if the tree grows somewhere in an open, sunny area with good soil, the period when you can harvest sap from it is, well, almost immeasurable. It just heals back and produces and has no visible damage. And if the forest stand is very well competitive, if the trees are very dense, then they're less lively and you can do more damage. And then you must find a method which allow you to gather more sap and easy to use. And for the quality of sap, well, forest debris and insects can fall in the sap, so you need to find a way to avoid that. Also, the price and simplicity. The more simple it is, the faster the work goes, and the materials should be available for making your own tapping devices. Then for the choice of method, it depends on how much sap do you want to harvest. If you just need to try some of it for your domestic needs, you can do whatever is done in these pictures, the first two. And then if you don't care about the trees or the quality of sap, you can do whatever is in the picture number 3, which contains like slicing the trunk and just hanging a plastic bag. Then there is also well, this method which I like. This picture was provided by my friend who harvests sap like in tens of times more than I do. So this season, he told me he harvested over 250 tons of sap, and this method requires less labor, but then the sap has to be in the elements for a bit longer. So it contains a plastic bag which has a good contact point with a cold soil. It may help to improve the sap quality. But then I use this method of plastic bottles and quite hardy tubes. They hold really well, but then you need to collect everything every day, and yeah, there is a minimal contact with the environment. It has two 1 millimeter diameter holes to release the air from the bottles, and so there are no insects or forest debris that can get in the sap, so it remains clean. And then for the transportation, it depends, of course, on the extent of sap. Both of these pictures are not mine, but both are from Lithuania. And if you have as little sap as on the left, you can just transport it by little bottles. Or then if you harvest 20 tons per day, you need something bigger. Well, for the transportation of sap from the forest, I use a little a mini dumper, which is great, but sometimes some inconveniences do happen. And the main enemies of the sap business are sunlight and warm temperatures and microorganisms, because these elements they get the sap to spoil, and you need to be quick to bring it to the freezer. And then again, it cannot be frozen in large amounts, because it also spoils during the thawing process. So if you want to deep freeze sap, the well, the bottles should be as small as possible for a quick thawing, quick melting. Well, I hope this video works. We need no sound because it's only a little music on it. There's no sound recorded. It was recorded by my friend who helped me during the 2022 sap season. And here you can see, and seeing is better than hearing, I guess. So the season begins, the sap drips fairly fast, and you need to hurry because it takes 2-3 weeks and it's over. So we spend a long time in the forest meanwhile. And here you can see the importance of dry forest areas. Annually, I harvest normally 15 to 30 tons of sap, which is, well, not a lot in comparison to most other sap producers. But I don't only sell raw material. I also sell some frozen sap products. And here you need to rush to refrigerate sap as fast as possible to avoid it spoiling. Well, the question is it legal? Sometimes it is, and in some cases it is not. In Lithuania, it is allowed to tap trees that will be cut in 5 years or sooner, and the diameter must be 20 centimeters or more. And then a person is allowed to use up to 5 trees, and not for commercial purpose if you work in a state forests. But then recently they are preparing documents for for making it legal to pay for commercial sap extraction. And then there are no restrictions of for the owners to collect sap in private forest. So most of the sap that is nowadays harvested in Lithuania comes from private forests. So now it is time to show what damage that activity does to the trees. The healthier the tree, as I mentioned, the less of the damage there is. And through the boreholes, of course, there are different microorganisms getting into the wood, and they cause the changes in the color of wood. But as we measure the strength, there are no changes, and it is not bad at all for the quality of wood, and the damage is mostly visual. And this should not cause financial losses, since the main product from birch is plywood. Talking about the products that are made from birch sap in Lithuania. So the sap that I sell as a raw material. So raw material costs from 30 cents if you sell to like a mass production plant, to €1. You can find it in little markets everywhere. But then the raw material is mostly pasteurized here. The most popular way is pasteurization, and then the price can go up to 3-4 euros per liter. Also, they mix sap with berries as well, and there is one little craft beer company that made beer with berry juice from the sap that I harvested as well. I also made like an experimental batch of birch sap ice cubes, which in my opinion is like a good product that can change water ice cubes. And then worldwide, there are many different uses for birch sap, from drinks to syrup, and syrup is more popular in the continent of America, but it's very very expensive to make, as birch sap contains twice as little of carbohydrates as maple sap in Europe, and comparing to sugar maple, it's around 3, sometimes 4 times less. So you need to evaporate a lot of water. And in Latvia, they made birch sap wine, as well as fermented birch sap, which is, well, fermenting is one of the traditional ways of preserving sap, and it turns into a probiotic drink full of valuable microorganisms. And now, thank you for your attention, and I hope you have questions.
Thank you, Justas. Very interesting. And I'm sure we will have some people lining up with questions. I just have a quick question to start off.
Okay.
You showed those bottles, which are, I think, are they 5 liter bottles that you collect?
No, they're 10-liter bottles.
They're 10 liter bottles.
Yes.
So, and you said you had to kind of check them or empty them each day. So you get 10 liters off one tree in a day, would you?
On a good season, you get, if it's a really good birch tree, you can get 4 full bottles of sap in one day.
So that's
40.
you're talking about, so that's 10 liter bottles. So that's 40 liters
40, yes.
off one tree per day. Wow.
My record trees, they produced about 500 liters per season, and they successfully lived on.
Wow. Very good. Yeah. Okay. We have a question here from Paul Butler. If you can just mention maybe your organization, Paul, or your interest, and then ask the question, please.
Yeah, my name is Paul Butler. I work in Teagasc, in the Forestry Department in Teagasc in Ireland. Which is a government, semi-government agency. So I was just wondering about the practicality of the drill holes. How deep are the drill holes, and are they at an angle, or are they straight, or what way does that work?
Yes,
Thanks.
they are.
It's very interesting talk.
They are at an angle. The tube is 16 millimeters in diameter, and it comes in a slight angle, not too much, but not too little for the gravity to work. And the pressure itself in a birch tree can reach about 2 to 3 atmospheres, so similar like in a car tire. And well, whatever the angle would be, it would still work. But I use the angle to not leave any of stagnant sap in the borehole, because fungus like stagnant sap.
And how deep are the drill holes?
The drill holes are about 3 centimeters deep. Well, maybe this deep.
Okay.
Uh,
Thank you.
Thanks very much. David Bowl, I think you're next.
Thank you very much. And Justas, thank you very much for a really excellent, interesting talk. That was fab. Many years ago, I tried to make some birch sap wine. Some of it was good, some of it was terrible.
yes.
And the method I used was to cut twigs off the end of the branches and to hang bags on that. Is that something that's tried? Or presumably that only works on smaller trees or open grown trees. So that's one question. Another question is, why is nobody doing this in the UK? I've got no understanding of anybody doing this in the UK. We need somebody over here who knows what they're doing to come and tap our birch trees. And then the third question is, how important is sterility of the vessels that you're using, the bottles that you are using? Sorry, that's 3 questions.
It's okay. It's good. Thank you for excellent questions. The first one, it's a really good way to preserve your trees. And if you have some beloved birch trees in the yard, and if you want to preserve and never cut them, you harvest the sap from twigs. But then the reason why the wine might have gone bad is the time of the season of when it was done. Because it could be that later in the season, sap becomes polluted with microorganisms, and they are stronger than the wine yeast, and it kills off the good yeast and make vinegar or something worse. Then the second question was it about the UK or was it?
Well, yeah. So
Oh,
there was a question about the UK, which I guess you can't answer, but it's just
well, I guess I could. How many birch stands do you have in the UK?
So in parts of the UK, in the north of the UK, there are fairly significant areas of birch,
Okay.
and we often see birch as a tree which doesn't produce very much. It has bad form in the UK for timber, and so maybe this is a way of. But I see Chris has got his hand up, so he probably knows more about this than me.
Okay, the birch trees are a pioneer species, and I guess it can be popular and well, widespread in colder regions. And then the price of wood recently, at least in Lithuania, it got up, and it now reached the levels of coniferous trees like pine and spruce, because the demand of plywood has rose, and maybe furniture is made from them, and maybe there are some legal problems about why they don't produce, or I don't know, maybe it's cheaper to import. And the question about the sterility, the cleanliness, of course, it is important, and the cleaner the gear will be, the priority is to use like new plastic each year, or wash them really clean, sterilize, because the less of pollution to begin with, the later the sap starts to get bad, and then we harvest sap as long as it's good, like it's clear, like odorless, and when it gets cloudy, we just stop harvesting and fill the holes. So it is important, yes.
So that was another question. Sorry, just while I've got you, do you seal the holes after you're finished, or do you just leave them?
I use little little pieces of wood. In my case, it is lime tree. There is like a little factory making handles for tools, and it does the wood turning. So I slice up the little handles and use that.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Very good. Thanks very much, David. Just before you come in there, Chris, I know you have your hand up. So just to bring back, you said you harvest with from twigs, if not harvesting the trees. Am I to understand from that then that if you harvest by tapping over time, the tree will get damaged, will get disease, or will die, or not?
It depends a lot on the health and overall condition of the tree. As I mentioned, if it grows in somewhere an open area with good soil and good soil moisture, like not too wet, for the roots to be lively, it will not get damaged. I know trees that were used for sap annually for 30-40 consecutive years, and they live on perfectly. But then if they grow in a competitive conditions in the dense forest stand, any any damage can do harm, because their line between life and death is very narrow.
Okay, very good. All right, thanks. Okay, Chris, over to you.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks, Justas. Yeah, just an update to David. I do know one owner in Exmoor who has his birch tapped by a lady who comes in and just pays him in bottles of birch sap. So that it does happen. I think it's very artisanal, or whatever you'd call it. Justas, my question was regarding, have you got any thoughts on pasteurized versus unpasteurized? Because it's almost the exact opposite of honey in the UK, where unpasteurized is much more expensive, but the health benefits are much more, supposedly much more beneficial.
Mm-hmm. I have the same thoughts about birch sap, so that's why I do not pasteurize. But pasteurization makes it shelf stable. You do not need freezers. You can just use it in summer in room temperature. And in Lithuania, also the numbers are not published, but I communicate with the owner of the main company that has the production plant, and so they require about 500 tons of sap per year, and then I would guess the the little small companies, or juice producers, whatever, they use about similar amounts of sap, which is just a small fraction of the potential that the forest could provide.
Right. Thank you. And just as an aside, I think most of our birch gets used as firewood, so I cannot believe that it would make any difference to the quality of, sorry, to the price you receive.
Yes.
But I just my thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
I think we're probably the same over here in Ireland. A question there on and I think Chris alluded to it, really, is the benefits, the health benefits of, like, I know you can make all these different products out of it, but is there a selling point there that it's it's like honey, it's a lot healthier, it's good for X, Y, and Z, or is there any studies on that?
I'm not sure if there are studies, and I'm not an expert of health and healing, but even though I am a doctor, yes, I'm a doctor of forestry. And then, as I mentioned earlier about the fermented sap, it has a lot of microorganisms, and if you keep the a glass of fresh sap in room temperature overnight, it will turn cloudy and full of those microorganisms. And if it tastes bland and tasteless when fresh, you can see the difference after that one night on the table, and how much of everything it contains, because it's a good media for the microorganisms. And if it is good for them, I guess it can be good for us as well.
Very good. Very good. Is there any more questions? Anybody else with any questions for Justas? After that very enlightening, very interesting, I think there's going to be a few of us running out to our birch trees to have a look at them now and see. I suppose there's a question, Justas, you kind of mentioned the season. When is the best?
Yes, well, depending on the geographic location, it is the best when the soil reaches about 3 to 4 degrees Celsius. I guess also it probably depends on the genetics of the birch trees. And well, the one certain thing that is about the start and the end of the season is that it stops when the birch trees starts to bloom, and when they start to like transmit pollen and the little leaves show, because then the transpiration starts, and the pressure that's generated by roots pushing the sap upwards is then picked up by the transpiration, and then the section of transpiration reduces the pressure so much that no sap can escape the trunk, even if there are holes in it. Yeah, but the beginning is, I guess, you drill and you try, and then you see if it's started or not.
Okay. Yeah, because I'm just thinking 3 to 4 degrees Celsius with soil.
Mhm.
That'd be all year round here. But
Yes.
it's just once they start flushing. So once they start showing any signs of flushing at all, you stop. You wouldn't get enough anyway.
Here in our conditions, I don't rush, because after it just starts, it can be very cold periods afterwards. And when it's cold, the bottles stay empty, but the sun makes like positive temperatures inside, so the bacteria starts to grow despite the cold temperatures, and it decreases the length of the period. So I wait until the sap starts to run, not in like little drops, but in a constant stream when you drill, and then it's time.
Okay, very good. Sorry, we have a question from James Gardner.
Oh, sorry about that. Hi, Eustace. Thanks for that.
Hello.
I appreciate there's going to be a balance between the kind of the first age or size of the birch tree when you start tapping up. I'm sure there's a balance there, so that you're balancing sap, but you're also minimizing kind of damage or infection to the tree. Thinking about if you're using it for firewood or for for plywood production later on. I was wondering if you kind of ignored that balance, if you were looking purely to just focus in on the sap, what's the kind of the smallest birch you'd be kind of looking to tap?
Well, of course, you can get sap from the trees of any diameter, but it would also depend on the conditions and from let's say from the trees with a very big crown. If they grow where it is sunny and like healthy for them, they can be really young, and within 15 years they can get the age of harvesting. But then if they grow in a forest stand, I don't think it's worth to waste your drilling gear on the trees smaller than like 15 to 20 centimeters, maybe. I don't know. Depends.
No, that's grand. Thank you. Yeah, I'm just trying to get that kind of bottom level baseline in
Okay.
my mind. But no, that's grand. Thank you very much.
Very good. Thanks very much, James. So if there's no more questions, I don't see any more questions. So I think we probably wrap it up. So I suppose it's just to thank Justas for, I have to say, a very enlightening, highly interesting presentation on your kind of alternative forest products, and I suppose more especially on birch sap, which I think is interesting to a lot of countries that grow birch, and they don't really tap into, excuse the pun, the resources that birch trees would probably provide. So I'd like to thank you very much for the talk, Justas. I'd also like to thank everyone else for giving up their time, showing your interest. We didn't get a load of questions, but I'm sure most of the questions were covered and everything was covered by Justas's presentation. And last but not least, of course, I'd like to thank Minna, who, as always, ensures everything runs smoothly and everything is ready, because I have to say I had nearly forgotten about it. But, you know, quick phone call to Minna and she reassures me everything's under control. And as always, she has everything under control. So I'd like to thank you again, Minna, for all that. And I suppose to watch this space, I don't think we have decided on a topic yet. Now, maybe, Minna, you can enlighten me on that, but I don't think we have decided on a topic. So if any of you here have a topic that you think of interest that we could air, can you send either me or Minna an email on it, and we'll talk to you about it, because we would be hoping maybe to have another one on Friday, June the 28th, which would be the last Friday in 2 months' time. So and then we'll have another one 2 months after that. But always, all topics welcome. And just to thank you all again for showing up today and showing your interest, and especially to thank Justas for a very, as I say, a very interesting presentation. Thank you very much.